Next week, there will be something presented at LAFCO in Bakersfield. And so I wanted to provide the opportunity for you all to ask questions now that I can then take to LAFCO on your behalf. You're also able to watch the LAFCO meeting. If you need, I can present the WebEx for you guys to access that. The Local Area Formation Commission. I am the representative for Ridgecrest on that commission. This is something that's been in the works for a while. I've talked about it at the other boards and commission sections of our meetings, that this is something that we're working towards. And so really we have a representative here from the East Kern Healthcare District. And I will try and answer as many questions as I can, that I possibly can, and then take any further information that I can ask the LAFCO Executive Director, Blair Knox, to get any clarification for any of the questions that y'all have. First, I want to start off with what this is next week and what it isn't. So this is just the sphere of influence and the municipal service review for the East Kern Healthcare District. This is not Ridgecrest Regional Hospital joining the East Kern Healthcare District at this time. This is one of the early stages for that. But again, they have amended their sphere of influence, which I have the definition for. That is the determined plan for the boundary and service area of the agency, and the MSR, the Municipal Service Review, which is the comprehensive analysis of the city or district's services. Yeah. The county or the district? The district did, and then submitted it to LAFCO. So that is one of the things that they. I would suggest for the people watching. Okay, so the question was who amended it, and that was the East Kern Healthcare District. They submit that to LAFCO in order to broaden their sphere of influence when that is requested, and they have to give an account for the information and the services that will be provided within that district. So as we know, our local hospital, after the earthquakes in 2019, they are a private nonprofit hospital. They did not get any assistance to help fix the hospital after the earthquakes. They lost a lot of services after the earthquakes. A lot of cosmetic type things weren't being performed there anymore. Yes, ma'am. It is now. Yeah, here, if you can.
Well, I just.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question was asking if it was a rural hospital. It is now. There for a while, I believe, and Karen, you can correct me, or JV, there for a while, I don't believe it was actually considered rural. Recently, they have worked through this process to make sure that it is actually considered rural. We were considered within Bakersfield boundaries. And so we were not considered rural until this process started. So,
Are you saying LAFCO made us rural?
it was, so the question was, did LAFCO consider us rural? No, it was how the hospital was already situated. But yes, I guess in a sense.
Someone has to dictate the change.
Yes, so beforehand, they were categorized as non-rural. Until the question was until when, and that is here recently. Yes.
Who made the decision?
That is Karen. If you know more, it happened within the process of the past year with East Kern Healthcare District and RRH discussing with LAFCO.
So non-elected body created this.
We can't hear you, Karen. We can hear you now.
Okay, you're actually asking questions that I'm not fully qualified to answer, but I am writing down these questions and we will clarify them all and then we'll get back. I can get you the copies after we get the questions, but the way that the licensing and everything of all these different hospitals, different levels of care, I don't want to make a mistake. So we'll just write this down as a question with all of your permission, and then we will make sure we have the answer.
Thank you. We have a question back there.
All right, who's next?
You mentioned earlier that we had cosmetic things
Yeah.
that were services lost. I don't consider obstetrics to be cosmetic in any way.
That's correct. But that's not the only service that service that we had lost. So this change, going to the East Kern Healthcare, we have a question again. East Kern Healthcare District would make the hospital no longer a private entity, no longer a nonprofit private entity. It will be public. They'll be eligible for federal grants and other services. JV, do you have any of the other? Okay. Go ahead, Ron.
I have another question for her, and she says current events, but they got rid of our hospital beds and all this other stuff years ago under the same rural quote-unquote definition by them. So where's this all going? All we keep doing from our hospital is losing services. And I don't know how you have an organization such as the hospital, which my understanding historically was donated to the people through Drummond, how it can become now a private entity. I don't understand.
I guess I don't understand the question because it is a private entity. They switched it to a private entity. I don't have the dates of when they switched it to a private entity, but it has been a private entity for a while.
Yeah, but how did it occur? How did it change?
My assumption would be the ownership.
And my assumption would be that the board of the hospital.
How about we do this to the public? Sorry.
My assumption would be that the board of the hospital voted to make the change so that we could get federal funding, et cetera, which I think is a very good thing.
Yeah, so I will say that it ebbs and flows in hospital policy on when it's beneficial to be private and when it's beneficial to be public. And I think the hospital acted in accordance with what was in the best interest of the community in that regard, yes. Ma'am?
Sir, at the Zoom meeting, at the meeting on the 17th that I'm going to attend by Zoom, will there be public comment allowed over Zoom?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you.
This lady's next, and I'll come back to you.
Gentleman in the back in the white shirt, I think, also had his hand raised.
Yeah, she had it first.
Thanks. When you said that we were not rural, was that an oversight? We thought we were rural, but,
That is my interpretation.
okay. And how long ago was that, do you know?
That I don't have the specific date.
Okay. Thank you.
Last question.
So what are the benefits to be obtained by making this change?
So that's where the grant funding can come in. My assumption is that the amount of money that's going to come in is greater. It will provide a greater income than what they have now, which is nothing.
Where's it coming from?
Federal grants or state grants.
It's not fair to say that there's nothing coming.
Okay. Travis?
I didn't, sorry. But in relative to the grants, right, we're not getting those right now. Yes, Karen?
Specifically, we are talking about a form of reimbursement called an intergovernmental transfer, or an IGT. And Ridgecrest Regional did hire a consultant before this process of the discussion ever started to determine whether revenue could be increased by a different structure. So what we have managed to do, and there's a lot of work in front of us, is find a structure that starts with the annexation that allows us to be able to access all 6 available IGT accounts in order to draw more revenue into the area and the hospital. So that's the biggest reason for this, is increased revenue.
They're asking if you can elaborate a little on how those IGT benefits will work.
I really can't. I apologize for that. But as we go forward into the process and we start learning more, because we are looking at the collaboration between the hospital and East Kern Healthcare, which is a special district, all of this will become public knowledge as it happens. And we have a lot to learn, but our first step of the ability to start working on this is the annexation.
Karen, so we met in the meeting, I believe a year ago, over across the street from the hospital. We were talking about this annexation and joining the hospital groups you already have under your purview. That would be the Adventist Healthcare in Tehachapi and
No, no. The hospital, Ridgecrest Regional is an independent nonprofit hospital at this point. We are not merging it with anything that is a tenant of East Kern Healthcare. East Kern Healthcare is a government agency that is a special district that was formed by the voters in 1977. We are talking about, for lack of a better word, an overlay that allows us to expand our district so that we include Ridgecrest Regional, the territory, the geography, and then this will allow us to access the revenue streams of an intergovernmental transfer. But currently with East Kern Healthcare, we are a landlord providing space to Adventist Health. This is not a merger of the hospitals in any way.
so when we were talking about this and Ridgecrest would be joining your group and falling under your purview, it was the Kern Valley Health District, correct?
Kern Valley Healthcare District is another special district to the west of where East Kern Healthcare is, and they are in Tehachapi.
Okay, so my concern is the discussion that you're putting forward is that we'll be looking at future funding from the government at some level. We've just had a big bill come through and slash all of that funding, and I just took this off of the office of Senator Edward Markey, list of hospital closures at risk for defunding, and the list is fairly extensive, but within our voting district, the Adventist Healthcare in Tehachapi and Kern Valley Healthcare, which is Lake Isabella, are both on the list for potential closures. So I'm looking for your comment on how we're going to get this federal funding when all of these other healthcare districts are facing massive funding cuts.
And this is something we do not have the answer to. There are consultants that have been hired, and this is why we're working with LAFCO to expand the sphere of influence. And obviously, we have to work within the boundaries of what's going on. But right now, the consultants have advised that the best way to access additional funding is this structure that allows the nonprofit hospital to come under the context of a special district. So I hear you, everything is changing every single day, but our goal and the reason that we exist in the first place is to provide access to healthcare.
As I understand, that I read in the paper, we're going to be annexed, and that we're going to be the only hospital in the eastern Kern County area. And how does the new federal laws for rural hospitals fit into the picture in support of the Ridgecrest Regional Hospital?
That's a question I would have to ask people that have more expertise than I do and get back to you on.
Okay, so I understand with the annexation, the so-called sphere of influence goes into San Bernardino County as well as a little north, and all those. And it says that all those areas, what I read, what I understand, is that all those areas are affected, and this annexation is being asked for, even though there's no new buildings that need to be built, or that's not listed as. So, can you clarify more?
Yeah, so the sphere of influence, what they're doing is they're expanding, as she said, the geography in which our area resides. So this MSR and the SOI, all it's doing is expanding the land that is now incorporated within the East Kern Healthcare District. Like you stated, there are no new buildings meant to be built. This is just the East Kern Healthcare having the ability to, their area of coverage include our area, if that makes sense. Ma'am?
Are we getting, is the hospital getting any state funding at this time? Or state help financially?
So I will say, just as a blanket for most rural healthcare in America, their most rural health opportunities are dwindling, as the gentleman in the back brought up. And so with the new bill, that the one big beautiful bill or whatever is slashing Medicaid, there is a $10 billion addition to the one big beautiful bill. Say again?
Yeah, they did.
So, so apparently there's differing opinions, but everything that I've read shows that it's slashing it. Most of the projections of it, the $10 billion that's in the one big beautiful bill isn't going to come close to helping the rural healthcare in our communities. I think they need an estimated $147 billion over that 10-year span, and they're providing 10.
In light of the federal temperature today, how likely is it that we would get any federal assistance?
It's rough. But I think that there are other avenues that the East Kern Healthcare District and other entities that may be able to provide in order to help us.
And how is this going to affect our doctors that we have or that we can't keep?
So, I mean, that's one of the benefits. If they are able to get more funding, they can pay a higher price to keep the doctors that we have or attract better doctors. Do you have a question?
No, that's just inaccurate information. The reason the doctors left Ridgecrest is because the hospital wasn't working with them, had nothing to do with rural funding.
Okay.
How is this move of annexation going to help the city of Ridgecrest Hospital collect the payments from Medi-Cal and those sort of things? You know, what is that? How does that enhance that ability?
So
and if I just heard you right, you said that the rural health bill that's passed in the big beautiful bill, as you want to call it, is not going to help Ridgecrest at all?
No. So I was talking specifically about how it affects rural healthcare. and I think that it hinders our ability to help. As for how the hospital can collect state funds, that I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert in healthcare policy or the repayment system for that. So that would be a question that we would need to ask the hospital. And currently they are not here. So the question was about article in the paper. One of the final sections in it was about taxation from the district and the hospital for the people. Like any new tax, like we can look at Measure P, Measure V, Measure AA, it will still have to be voted upon by the people in order to enact that tax. So it's not a guaranteed rubber stamped, it goes up, we get taxed. Because they're a private entity. So that brings it out of the private status and allows them for additional potential funding. Yes, ma'am.
I wondered if funding does come in from Eastern Kern, who's the oversight committee to see how that's spent here locally?
So East Kern has is it a 5-member board, ma'am?
Correct. We have a 5-member elected board. We're a special district, but the money, any money that would come at this point, we are talking about reimbursement for services provided by the hospital. And we need the hospital to bring clarity to this answer. But it's not money coming from East Kern Healthcare. It is an increase in the amount of revenue that is collected for services provided. This is where the word intergovernmental transfer comes in. And that's our first target, is to increase revenue to the hospital through increased access to the reimbursement rate.
Sir.
Okay. Can I ask where the funding sources of that reimbursement comes from? Because there's 2 sources.
Here, let's get you. I don't think she can hear you, sir. I don't think she can hear you.
Can I ask where that funding is coming from? Because my understanding, there is a partnership between the federal government and the state, where the federal government provides a portion and the state provides a matching portion. But as we're looking at the big beautiful bill, the federal portions have been severely slashed, may not make it at all. So where are we going to get that funding and match funding if, to me, it really sounds like we're talking about what you're talking about was true a year ago or a year and a half ago when we were looking at a different government, but that's changed. And we now have to fend for ourselves. And I feel like we're talking about phantom funding here that may not or probably doesn't exist.
And 100% of any decision that will be made when the numbers make sense and the hospital board is involved, and then the elected board would be involved. This is not going to be, we're not promising something. We are saying that in order to qualify for the funds, we need the annexation. Ridgecrest Regional needs to become part of a government agency. As a nonprofit hospital, they are not qualified to apply for some of this grant funding. And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to position ourselves to be able to apply for funding that is available. But that doesn't guarantee anything. It just means that we can submit and see what happens. We're in the same situation where everybody is. We've got to see what happens with the administration and going on, but we're trying to make sure that we are accessing revenue in the most effective way possible.
So this has been talked about a couple of times, but I'm still a little unclear on this particular one. I have some more questions. So let me just state it plainly. Is the hospital proper going to be run by an elected board that's voted on by the people after this annexation?
Karen, do you have an answer for that one?
My understanding is that the hospital board will continue to run the hospital. And this is part of what would be publicly negotiated and determined. But the big thing that, and I can speak for myself here, I'm only one person out of 5, but the institutional knowledge that comes with the board of how to run the hospital is priceless. We don't want to change that. We don't want to throw away, but nothing will change without the negotiated contracts that have to come after the annexation. We can't negotiate a contract. We don't have the annexation in place. With the annexation in place, we have to be licensed through the state public health. Then we have to have the agreements as to how things would work between us, how everything happens. But spending the money to negotiate those before the annexation means that we're spending money that only makes sense if we have the annexation in place.
Okay, so that's a non-concrete answer, and we don't know how it's going to go, basically, based on what was just stated. So we could end up very possibly with an annexation, and the board is still run by a handpicked board, basically. All the people get on that board that are asked to become part of the board. And it still would be basically a nonprofit in all respects, in that respect. What I'm hearing here is a lot of ifs, a whole lot of ifs, and we got to put this annexation in place and then trust us, we're going to get it all done right. And I am real uncomfortable with that. I think there's a lot more information that should have already been put out. The last meeting was over 16 months ago, and that's the only public meeting that they had in all this time. We haven't been informed about this. Why? So why are we rushing into an annexation that is initiated by the Cal City Centered Board, wasn't initiated by anybody up here in the valley, other than the request of the hospital? And then we're saying, well, intergovernmental grants, but we don't know anything about those. We just know there's 6 possibles. Why should we be in favor of this at all if everything is so indefinite? And we're being asked to do an annexation, which by law could property taxes very, very conceivably. And the ways the state funds are going right now, this bankrupt state, and you talk about grants from the state, that's kind of a joke, really.
So I want to take this time to reiterate that the next meeting is, for next week at LAFCO, is the MSR and the SOI. This is not us actually joining them, but it's annexing the land so that the potential could be there. So next Wednesday. Next Wednesday is the LAFCO meeting. It's during our city council meeting. Nope. That's the municipal service review. Municipal service review. The sphere of influence. I can give the definitions if you want again of those two. So the MSR is the comprehensive analysis of a city or district services. The sphere of influence is the determined plan for the boundary and service area of the agency. Both of those will be brought to LAFCO next week. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I really have more than one question, but I'll give you my first one. What is the timeline for funding the hospital adequately looking like after September 17th, once the annexation is approved? What happens next, or what are the next steps? how long will the next steps take to get the hospital in a better financial position than it currently is in? 1 to 2 years, and can the hospital survive financially during this transition time?
Karen, do you have the answer for next steps?
The next steps are to negotiate the agreements between the hospital and the district so that it's publicly transparent as to how it works. It'll take maybe as much as a year of hard work to do this, and the hospital would have to tell you about the financial position, but the hospital has been working on a restructuring plan that they have come a long way. They are watching carefully, and no decisions are being made that are haphazard. They are decisions that are carefully thought out, and the hospital is directing. And I apologize that they're not here to answer some of these questions, but this is not something that we are taking lightly. This is the annexation is, and this is my words, is the equivalent of a driver's license. Once we get the driver's license, then we can decide what kind of car we're going to have and where we're going to go on our journey and how long we're going to be gone. But the annexation is what allows us to have these conversations so that we can secure access to health care for our areas.
Karen, is it correct that this then sets up a 218 vote for the community?
I have no way, I don't know. I don't have any answer. The only thing that I know is that if for some reason we were looking to increase taxes, say we wanted to build buildings and we were looking at capital investment, that is a vote, and it doesn't happen unless the public votes for it. Right now, we are focused on the increased revenue from the intergovernmental transfers.
So will those intergovernmental transfers take a year or two to happen?
All of the structural pieces have to be in place first, and that's part of what the hospital is working on.
Okay, I thought you raised your hand a second ago.
Are there any hospital board members here tonight? Why wouldn't there be some board members here tonight to get some ideas of how they feel?
What do you call board members? There are two boards. You have a corporate board and an executive board. The executive board we call the decision board. And the corporate board is members are in the oversight committee.
Are you speaking?
I'm a corporate board member. Yes, but not an executive board.
How do you feel about all this?
I don't know.
How do you feel about all this?
What I feel, that is my personal.
Here, so for the people that are on YouTube.
Because people, do I have to repeat the first part also? You want me to repeat the first part? I'm part of the corporate board, not from the executive board. It's totally different. So I hear something. I don't involved with the decision making. That is the corporate board. That I think is 12, 13 members or something like that. What you want to ask me is personal, nothing to do with corporate board. My husband was a physician. He practiced for 12 years in this town. I was in the office. We had the office open because it was his hobby. I said, you can go on as long as I don't have to pay. Normally, we couldn't have anything actually more. We couldn't have the office open. Just because he loved the work, he loved to do it, we did it. And I worked at tremendous hours myself. I was the jack of all trades. From medical, what you get is horrible, what it is. Didn't cover our cost, but he wanted to help those people. But one thing you have to remember, this is only a part. This is one step to it. what are you risking? If you say no, if this hospital goes under, what is it? If I live here, if I get a heart attack, if I get a stroke, where will it go? Where will the ambulance come from? How long does it take to help me? This is our lifeline, the hospital, no matter what you think. And this is only one step. This is the step to do it. This is not going forward. Anytime further in the step, you can say, stop it. Because I understand, if I'm correct, that she tried to own their own district. They didn't go this way because goes faster. To form your own district here in Ridgecrest take 4 or 5 years longer. And with this, yes, we don't know what tomorrow is going on. What will be there? I don't know. Maybe we get Holland's money, maybe we get nothing. But I want here a hospital in town, so what? I happen something that I can be taken care of, or my family member, my friends, whatever it is. That's all about. We don't want to lose our money. And yes, on my bucket list is a helicopter ride, but damn it, the first one will be here, the Medivac.
I'm curious, could you please tell us the 2 or 3 reasons we would not want to do this?
So I think it's been addressed by some people, right, that there is the potential for taxation. I have not met a person yet that's, hey, we want more taxes. And to me, that seems to be the biggest complaint about it. The other complaint that I've seen in the protest documentation given to LAFCO so far is that they don't want to align themselves with Cal City and be controlled by a board from Cal City. There are elections that will be had. Those board seats will be where anyone here can run. So that would probably be the 2 that are really coming to top of mind right now for me, that I've heard.
So I'm just going to go back one step here, because when this gentleman asked about the board, no one said the board is going to be seated in Cal City. That's what you just said, right?
I understand there's 2 different boards. Which board are you asking for? The board of the district, and that is the lady. She is the president or whatever you call it. That is for the hospital board. Is here. That stays here. So it is. Say do the grounds. Say. Yeah, but it is here in the. It stays here in town, but what I also understand, that also the board get elected here from I think, yeah.
That's better.
Ma'am.
So, since there's no representative from the hospital at this meeting, I don't know anything about the board of the hospital. I don't know how well they're doing or how bad they're doing. But my question is, what kind of power of decisions would they have over a governmental agency from East Kern County?
That's a good question that I don't have the answer to. Karen, the question was, would the hospital board have any power over the East Kern Healthcare District Board?
And this is actually in the MSR document that will be posted on the LAFCO website. I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of that with me, but that is one of the things that has to be negotiated. I believe that document said that the hospital board makes decisions, is running the hospital, and then would report to the elected board on a quarterly basis. But in order to make sure that you have factual information that is in the documents that LAFCO is preparing as the MSR, and it will be part of what's published and then in the discussion for next Wednesday's meeting.
Does that answer your question, ma'am? Sorry, Tom.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, the East Kern Health District is looking to expand their border to encompass the Indian Wells Valley. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, so based on that, so then after that, the hospital would then take some kind of action to join into the district, like she said, through some kind of negotiated agreement or whatever it is. Down the road, if the hospital or we, the people, felt that it was not the appropriate thing, what would it take for the hospital to get out of this district, if it's so desired? We don't know what the future holds, okay? So will the hospital be able to get out of it in the future if they decided to?
So my assumption would be that it would be brought back to LAFCO for another annexation, and then LAFCO, it would go through that process, and then it would then be, again, brought to a vote. But Karen, if you have any other input on that for removing the hospital from the district, if so desired?
My assumption would be the same as yours, that it would be a LAFCO decision.
So that would be another thing that we would have to bring then to LAFCO to then get out of the district, just like we're have the talk about bringing it into the district.
If I could go back to Karen for one moment. So your district right now, I'm just going to paraphrase this, basically landlords. You're in California City, and you are landlords, and you are expanding your footprint, which you hope to include the Ridgecrest Hospital.
Correct, correct.
So the board of directors sitting in Cal City are landlord board of directors, and the board of directors sitting in Ridgecrest Hospital are going to be subject to a board of landlord directors. That's where I'm having a problem. I think that the Ridgecrest independence, or Ridgecrest having its own representation, since we're going to be the only hospital that falls within your group, I would think that we should have a priority seating in that environment.
And the way it would work, again, East Kern Healthcare District is a special district. The 5-member board of directors are elected. The administrative code states that you need to live in the district to be elected to the board. It is normal, as any other election on the ballot. And so once this annexation goes through, then anybody living within the expanded district would be able to run for the board of directors. Did I make that plain?
Does that make sense? We had an affirmative, Karen.
Can I clarify that a little bit? If the annexation happened 3 months from now, are they going to make decisions before any of the citizens of Ridgecrest actually get an opportunity to control who's on the board?
Well, it depends on what goes into what actually, between the negotiation between the hospital and the East Kern Health District for the timing of when that adjournment happens.
I understand that. But when they do the enjoyment, then they start making rules and laws and whatever else they're going to do. How are we going to be represented on it when the board's already been elected by the California City area and not us?
Again, it depends on the timing, right? So
That's my question. What's the timing going to be?
When is the next election?
Karen, do you know when the next election is?
The next election, I believe, is in June of 2026. We do have a election coming up in November of 25, but it's too late to put anything on the ballots. So my understanding is the next one would be in June of 2026. But with the annexation, We are not talking about taking over until we have an agreement. The annexation is only the first step. And again, I'll use my example. It's the driver's license. It allows us to decide where we're going to go. So one of the first things that has to be done is the determination of how the two boards would work together. And that's what my understanding from Ridgecrest Regional is, that we have about a year's worth of work ahead of us.
I understand that, but you still missed my point. You're going to negotiate with Ridgecrest Hospital to become part of the district. Well, the real value is whether Ridgecrest Hospital comes in or not, we're going to become part of the dirt. We're going to be part of the area that's being controlled. When they do that, are they going to distribute seats by area, or are they just going to say there's 5 seats? How's that going to work so that we, the people of this valley, actually have input before any decisions are made?
And that's an excellent question. My understanding is that they would immediately be available at the next election, but this is a question that would go, Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, next Wednesday when LAFCO has the answers, because this is LAFCO's decision. But to the best of my knowledge, the minute the annexation goes through, then anybody living within the district, which would be expanded, is eligible to run for the board of directors.
And here, let's get you, hold on, let's get you a mic. But it's the people on YouTube that also need to.
Two things. So what he's asking is, if the decision based after the annexation, all these decisions have to be made well prior to June of 2026. So those in power now, or those on the boards now, are going to be the ones to make the decisions on how many seats go to Ridgecrest, or how many seats go to West Ridgecrest, or how many seats go to Cal City. He's saying that those choices are going to be made for us before we ever have a chance to speak what we want.
Or to carry on to be represented like the way that we want.
Right.
Right. So Health and Safety Code 32101 states all registered voters residing within the territory comprising a district organized under this division are qualified electors. So in that case, which is what she's saying, right, if this happens a year from now and June 26 already comes and goes, right, then yes, we will still be under the Cal City representatives. Because at that point, we will not have the ability of Ridgecrest residents to be made available for election. Correct.
I would like to see this clarified at the LAFCO meeting next Wednesday.
Where none of us will be.
I mean, we will have it, we have a WebEx, so you can attend virtually. If you are not able to, and I will get that, I will share it. So there is an option for you to virtually attend if you are unable to drive to Bakersfield.
Okay. One last
And
question.
the LAFCO meeting is a public meeting. It's a public hearing. It's accessible to everybody. There's no reason why anybody can, other than your schedule. There's nothing that would prevent you from attending.
Since it's so focused on Ridgecrest and the hospital that's only located here, why isn't that meeting being held here?
Because it's for the same reason that anything with the Kern LAFCO, every decision, regardless if it's in Tulare or if it's in any of those other areas, the decisions are made at that location in Bakersfield.
What? One last thing, and then I'll give it away. But the annexation is happening. It's happening. Is that what my understanding is? Is it's just happening? There is no vote for the annexation?
No, so it still has to go through LAFCO.
I understand it has to go through LAFCO, but is there a vote for the Ridgecrest residents to decide whether or not they want the annexation to happen.
So that's one of the things that we're going to have to check into. It could be that there's a 218 vote.
Yeah, I got that answer. Yeah, once LAFCO agrees to the sphere of influence change and addition, it comes back to the community for a protest vote. And then the community, if you're against it, you have to send your letter in, which makes it kind of difficult because not a lot of people send their letters in. So that would be the process to get our area in the district.
So it's a negative vote.
You have to have more than 51% plus one vote to stop it.
What does the MSR stand for?
It's a municipal service review. Municipal service review.
And one more question. If all this annexation takes place, do we become East Kern County Regional Hospital?
No, I believe the name will stay the same.
Are
It's
we
just,
still going to be Ridgecrest Regional Hospital?
yeah. I mean, it's just the district that's.
All right, who's next?
Here and here. I don't know who was first.
We'll just go this way. I think she had hers up first.
How is the board, the hospital board, made up of? I mean, I don't remember anything on a vote, on a electoral ballot, you know. So how do they get the board?
So it's a private entity, so they can select them themselves. So if it was a public entity, then they'd have to change. They potentially have to change their ways. But currently, they're a private entity, and so they are selected.
Selected by who?
My assumption would be the CEO.
Huh?
It's a society of good old boys.
My assumption would be by the CEO.
So, and why is there not a representative of the hospital here for this meeting?
I'm not aware. I don't know.
I-
So I called for this without asking them to do it because I thought that I owed it to the residents of this community to have this discussion. And because I wanted to try and get as much input as possible before I go to LAFCO and I vote yay or nay. I think it would. I think the mic did.
Oh, so I'm still not understanding what LAFCO is. If you could just explain it in layman's terms, I guess.
So it's the Land Area Formation Committee, and what they do is they deal with these types of special districts and other types of districts, right? And so they're trying to get more. So when a water district is trying to expand its scope, if there are cemetery districts that are trying to get more room so that they can have more people, they are the representative body in order to approve that according to governmental regulations. Does that make sense?
Just to expand that, LAFCO is the Local Area Formation Committee. It is a state local area formation commission. It is a state agency, but it is operated at a county level. So the county in a really small rural county would be different than a big urban county, but it is all part of the bigger sphere of influence, which is part of a state system. And LAFCO makes these determinations.
So I have been in discussion with some base personnel. I know that they're working their part on this. I'm not privy to everything that they're doing, but I know that they're working to try and continue to provide health care here and give access to continue to keep this hospital running, right? Because if we think about it, if we don't have a hospital, we're not having a base. Correct. You've had your hand up forever.
I just wanted to clarify for myself at least two things. One, we're not being acquired, we're just joining this, or?
Not yet. So the answer's not yet.
Not yet, which one?
So,
Not a, oh.
So this meeting is only about extending the East Kern Healthcare District's geography footprint. It is the precursor to joining. Correct.
The second thing was, if funding comes in and it's available to Eastern Kern, if that's how that works, where they get money from the government or whatever, then how do we know it's dispersed fairly?
Since we're the only hospital.
Well,
Yeah,
that doesn't mean money goes where it's supposed to go either.
so my assumption is just like any entity, any business, they'll have to put out a report, an annual report of expenses and income, and things like that. I don't personally know. I'm just guessing, just based on a few business classes that I've taken. But that would be my assumption. Karen, if?
My assumption is that we are going to be dealing with the grant structure process, and that in order to get grant money, the application would come from the hospital, and the hospital would be saying, this is what we're asking for, this is what our needs are, that's where the budget is, and we would be dealing with the normal accountability for a grant. There is not money going to be flowing freely into East Kern Healthcare's pockets that might or might not get redispersed to the hospital. It is clearly about the accounting, the analysis, the services provided. Everything will be very carefully monitored and maintained and public.
Okay, my question is very simple. Ask when you go over there how they're going to have, under what law they're going to have a protest vote, because it doesn't fall under Prop 218. Prop 218 is a tax issue and a funding issue. So ask them what authority they have to have what they call a protest vote.
Well, he's
The only thing that I know for certain is that LAFCO has stated that they are in charge of the timeline. They mailed the notices. They scheduled the meeting for the 17th, and there is in the schedule a protest vote opportunity. All of that comes as the decision is made next Wednesday, but it's been something that has been discussed from the very beginning, and it's under LAFCO's control.
Okay, I have a question about the money flow here. This was mentioned before, but nothing specific was actually named. You talked about this intergovernmental transfer funds. Said there were 6 different possible sources of those. Can you name those sources?
I cannot. That is something that the hospital would have to do.
When are we so do we have to go to the hospital to ask this question to get the information? Because my problem is, I don't see money coming from the state being, pretty much like the feds in deep debt and bankrupt. So the county has been screaming about not having money for, 8 years or more. So if we're not going to get it from some magical source that, out of the sky, other than the state or the feds, it'd be nice to know what those are.
And I can answer you that we will ask the hospital, who did hire a consultant who did the research on this, and we will ask the hospital for the information to be provided in the public hearing next Wednesday, and then that's where the information will come up, and we can get back to you with information before that if we can get it. But this is all what the hospital is aware of.
Okay, be nice to have concrete information.
No, but we will research that and we will get back to you, Mike. The gentleman in the white shirt in the back had his hand up.
New blood.
It looks like the protest vote is per government code 56661 and 56663 for anyone that was wondering. I have the notice here. A couple things. A few months back, I had the opportunity to sit and talk with, I think it was a board member and some staff members from the East Kern Healthcare District, and I was kind of mortified by what they told me about how the state of their finances and how they're being run. When was the last time you had an audit, and what was the audit findings?
We just had an audit. We just completed the audit for the year ending 24-25. There were no findings, and that was at our last, I'm not sure if it's on the website yet, but I can make sure this week that it does go up.
Okay.
I do have that from the auditor. The auditor is Nigro and Nigro.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a look at that when it's up. The other thing is, I just hate personally having outside agencies control what happens in this valley. It may take a couple more years to get our own health district if that's what we want to do, but I think that is the appropriate course of action. We see too many other agencies, as with the Groundwater Sustainability Act that created the Groundwater Authority. Anything that injects outside influence is kind of against my creed, but there you go.
So I will say, right, and to the woman's point earlier, if it takes 4 to 5 years to do that, right, and the issues that we're already confronted with currently, I don't know what this hospital looks like in 4 to 5 years without assistance. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if the annex went through and we were part of the governmental agency with Eastern Kern County, and we did get some funds, whether they be federal, state, or wherever, who decides where those funds go to within the hospital? So the hospital will continue, or if it's going to continue, but who decides where the funds will go? So I know the base gave money for maternity. Now, is that money going all for maternity, or so who makes those decisions as to where this money is dispersed within the hospital?
So my assumption would be that would be the CEO, CFO, and the board would have some determination on financing.
Okay, I'm more worried about the hospital going under because I went to the prior meetings, and every meeting they explained why we had to do East Kern Healthcare District, because it was the quickest way to get access to the desperately needed funds this hospital has to have to survive. We're in a survival mode, people, if you don't understand that. And it's serious. And we can't wait 5 years to get our own hospital district, okay? My thing is, in the article that was published in the Daily Independent, it said that RRH would automatically get up to 3 or 4 million per year as a result of annexation to EKHCD. And they said it had to do with higher reimbursement rates. What I want to know, are we going to get higher reimbursement rates by being in the East Kern Healthcare District from Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance, or other sources of reimbursement? Does anybody know that answer?
I personally don't. I don't have the nuts and bolts financial information on reimbursement. Karen, do you have any information on that?
Not at that level. I know that we've been talking intergovernmental transfers or IGTs. I do not know if that translates to Medicare or Medicaid or however, but we are certainly able to ask that question.
We'll look into it, ma'am, and we'll get back to you. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
If we got grants or money coming in from other sources, if this annexation took place, I guess to my other question, how would it be dispersed within the hospital? So would say the CEO and CFO be able to afford another house? Would they all get raises? Or would it actually go within the hospital, to the doctors, to the hospital, just to make it better?
So I know that, and let me know if I'm wrong, but I think there's 2030. There's a timeline for the hospital that needs to have certain things done to the hospital to prepare it for earthquake retrofit. There we go. So I know that there are maintenance type things that need to happen at the hospital in order to meet that 2030 goal, which I believe is a state goal. And so, again, that's another thing, waiting 4 to 5 years would harm us in the ability to make those maintenance style additions to the hospital. And again, right, if they're getting more sources of income, we could potentially make the hospital better. Whether that's, updating different wings. Again, I'm not a hospital spokesman, right? But again, it's up to the board and the CEO, CFO. But I know that those are things that in my conversations with the hospital that they're advocating for is.
And just to expand that, I am looking at the public meetings handout from April 5th, 6th, 11th, and 12th of 2024. And there is one sentence in here about the benefits to the local residents and benefits and visitors to Eastern Kern County. If Ridgecrest Regional were to come under EKHCD, it could extend seismic compliance deadlines for Ridgecrest Regional out for 5 years beyond 2030. So that was written over a year ago, but that is what was in the consultant's information at that time. We have to confirm it, but that's what I'm told.
We have a question back there.
Well, I'd rather see the seismic retrofits happen sooner rather than later. Also, just to respond to her, I think what you're asking about the oversight within the hospital itself, that's the one good thing about annexing and having some oversight from outside, is that it wouldn't just be the hand-picked board of directors that are there now that get to decide who gets the money and who builds a house. It's going to be seen by others and not just the people here that'll have the control over it. So I think that that's one benefit of annexation. Travis, I wanted to ask you, because you're going as our representative, and you said you held this meeting to hear us, and I appreciate that, but I think you already have to have your yay or nay decided. No?
No.
So what happens if you say nay, you don't want the annexation? Would you do that to the hospital? I mean, you've said that it probably won't live for 5 years, so.
Well, I mean, I'm representing this community, and so I will take input into it, right? And we'll have a healthy discussion among the commissioners. And I've learned stuff here. I will learn stuff at that commission for other communities that have probably gone through this before. If there are any examples or input, I can reach out to the other commissioners, and ultimately it will be my decision on that. But I'm always taking input on what I think the citizens want. And while, no offense, this isn't a statistically significant sample of residents here, but it's good to hear both sides of individuals who have hesitations, right, have concerns, and those that don't. And so, it's just added information for me to take to that meeting.
I'd like to address the question about knowing where the money goes. So typically, when you participate in a grant process, that going forward to participate has to be approved by the CEO and the board. But it's a specific request. So specifically, you might be applying for beds. Specifically, you might be applying for a better way to staff nursing, for instance. And then you specifically get the money for exactly that thing. And then that has to be audited. And you can see from the audit whether or not it happened.
Yes, ma'am. All right, are there any other questions? I know we're running 10 minutes long. And I want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to attend the vigil happening at, can you hand him the mic? If you could repeat it so people on.
Your vote next week, is that a yay or a nay vote at that time? I mean, you know, we either go or we don't go. That's a drop dead vote.
I mean, it's me along with a lot of other
Well,
commissioners.
I understand, but I just, like, that's the last opportunity. If we want to have an objection, that's our last opportunity to object.
No. There's public comment allowed for that. And so anyone willing and able, and you feel the need to, please call in. Let the other, I will share these conversations with the other council members, and we will hopefully hear from you guys as well, if you're able to attend virtually or call in. There will be still the protest vote, which they've already received some of them, and they were attached to our agenda. So I was able to read some of them already. But I really want to thank you all for coming out, for listening, engaging, asking such great questions. Karen, thank you for being a good representative and having your voice be heard. Really appreciate that. I appreciate that our citizens were able to ask you directly. There were a lot of things that we're going to have to continue to learn from and get back with you on. But again, I just want to reiterate, this is an SOI and an MSR, so it's only the geography that's changing currently. But this is the step towards the hospital joining the district. So I want to thank you all. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh. You're welcome, ma'am. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you.